Hey there, welcome to my channel. In this video, I am going to discuss the ways to overcome a flare-up, what to eat, what to avoid, and some general tips on how to do all this. So this is what I follow exactly, and when I stick to it, it's amazing. I got a lot of this information from the Gastritis Healing book, which you can find on Amazon. That goes into a lot further detail on the science behind everything. So I'm going to start off with the positive. So these are the things that you can eat and want to eat during a flare-up. We have papayas, all our melons, bananas if they're very ripe, dragon fruits, avocados, black olives, Asian pears, spinach, kale, pretty much all the green leaves, cauliflower, arugula, celery, Brussels sprouts, artichoke, asparagus, zucchini, okra, shrooms, carrots, beets, pumpkin, squashes, parsnips, imicas, yams, potatoes, taros, yucca. For the herbs that you would want to use are coriander, rosemary, parsley, sage, thyme, basil, oregano, saffron, asweti. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's an India herb and it kind of tastes like a really pungent onion. Sumac, bay leaves, dill, tarragon, cumin, fennel, and sea salts, Himalayan salts. You can use liquid aminos or coconut aminos to flavor your food for stir fries. Olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil are all really good to cook with. Be aware that coconut and avocado are your high temp cooking oils, and your olive oil is a little lower. We have our hemp oils, krill oils, walnut oils. They're all good to use without heating, and cold pressed only for these oils. As far as your protein, chicken, turkey, eggs, tilapia, wild salmon, haddock, lobster, scallops, crab, and shrimp. Now, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, beans are a good option. I didn't do the beans for the first month and I actually started eating more meat again. But I did notice that when I switched back to eating beans for protein, I felt like my healing progressed a lot quicker and I could tell my food was digesting more. So if you're having a really severe flare-up where you can barely eat, barely digest any of your food, it's recommended to avoid beans and greens for until you start to make some progress and actually feel like you can start eating again. If your flare-up's not that severe to where you're not able to eat, go ahead and do the beans and the rice. Just make sure that you soak the rice and the beans for a day in the refrigerator covered. That way it'll get out any of these anti-nutrients that could give you bloating with the beans, as well as the stuff that's in the rice. We want to make sure we can release that and rinse it out before we cook it. For your milks, definitely any plant-based milk is fine. I typically do almond, coconut waters, any type of coconut cream, evaporated coconut milk is fine for cooking with. That can be really nice to put into rice. For sugars, maple syrup, stevia, monk fruit, xylitol, vanilla extract. You could find the kind that uses glycerin instead of the alcohol. That will be a better option. And this could be a hit or miss for some people. For me personally, nut butters do not work for me, and I'm on about 3 months of really pretty strict eating with only a few hiccups in the third month because I started trying some new things. So just try it out and see how you feel. And that's really the only way you're going to know. Honey, once you start to feel better, I definitely wouldn't be dipping my chicken into it. I would kind of more use it as for a sauce or in baking, because it can aggravate your stomach. And carrot powder is really good. It tastes like chocolate. It's a little sweeter, and that can be a good way to replace chocolate. Nuts, it's avoided to kind of stay away from the nuts and seeds right at the beginning if you're having a severe flare-up, but you can do walnuts, and that'll help get your omegas if you're not doing the fish. As far another good way to get protein, I know in the beginning I couldn't really eat anything for the first month unless it was liquefied, pureed, or like in a soup. So I would do a lot of protein powders. Pea protein powder is really good. It has all the amino acids that you need. And hemp protein powder is good. Just make sure that you're not getting a protein powder that has too many ingredients in it. We want to keep the stomach, as calm as possible. And the more types of ingredients and foods you're combining in one meal, the more reaction you could have between each food's properties. So here are the things that you want to eliminate for at least 3 months if you're having a severe flare-up. If you're bleeding, I would definitely go longer. Just see how you feel. You want to avoid all citruses, lemons, apples, grapes. Berries are kind of one of those things that you may be able to tolerate if you mix them in a ratio with plant milk, say half a cup of berries to 1 cup of almond milk. I find I have reactions occasionally to this, so I will be very limiting on how much berries I actually put into my smoothies, depending on where I feel like I'm at in my healing process. And this is, just trial and error from dealing with so many flare-ups. You want to not have any carbonation. This is already going to irritate your you don't want to do any carbonation. That's already going to irritate and possibly cause gas. Avoid anything bottled, canned beverages. It's really hard to find a beverage that doesn't have additives in it, and a lot of those chemicals and additives are acidic, and we don't want that in the stomach. Coffee, hot chocolate, energy drinks. If you're someone who is dependent upon caffeine, I recommend that you cut it out slowly and just wean back. It's good to even track your progress of, say, this week I only had this many drinks, and the next week try to lessen it. But coffee is a really, really big one for anyone dealing with gastritis that you want to avoid. Any caffeine of any sort is very irritating. I did it cold turkey, and I was addicted to coffee and energy drinks, and it wasn't a good experience for me the first few days, but now that I don't have it, I have no need for it anymore, and I wake up and feel very energized. So now we want to go to our oils that we want to avoid. Anything with trans fat, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, no seed oils. Avoid anything like really hot or really cold. You want to limit your salt. If you are eating the animal protein, you want to limit that as well, because it is harder to digest than a plant-based protein. As far as vegetables to avoid, any onions, garlic. A nice thing you can replace those with are leeks for the onion, and there's some spices you can look up that are similar to garlic. Bell peppers, curry, mint, mayonnaise, any salad dressing, anything spicy, your barbecue sauces, mustards, no vinegars, black pepper, pickles, tomatoes, French fries. If you look at the ingredients, there's a lot of really bad oils in there for anyone, especially if you have gastritis. So make your own. No processed foods. Anything that says citric acid, that's it's vitamin C, but it's very acidic. So you want to avoid that, and they put that in a lot of things to preserve it. Phosphoric acid, lactic acid, absorbic acid, malic acid, preserved drinks, packaged foods. Avoid all of those. So you're going to be basically eating pretty basic, just whole foods, you know, your protein, your carb if you can do it, and your vegetables and fruits. And just keep it simple, really. Okay, so some irritating things that you can do to your body, foods and drinks, is anything with that pH balance under 4. Skipping meals, because this will allow the stomach acid to build up, and we don't want that to get out of control. Too much salt, obviously that's going to irritate your stomach lining or what you have left of it. Hard to chew foods. Not only will your jaw hurt from chewing them so long, it's just harder for your stomach to break down that food. We want to avoid very hot or very cold. So I got in a habit of just using my electric tea kettle and drinking warm water all day. Don't overeat, because if you're putting too much in, then there's not enough acid to break it down, and it's gonna just cause more problems and more reactions that you don't want. Processed foods, avoid the cereals. Like I said, fries are really bad. And certain canned goods, canned soups, if you look at the salt content in them, there's a lot. So just really try to make your own food in big batches. Drinking while eating, we don't want to be drinking too much water when we eat. If I need to drink anything at all, it'll be the tiniest sip, but usually I don't. We don't want to dilute the stomach acid. Not chewing food properly, so we want to make sure to chew the food. What I did was I counted 30 chews for about the first day. I think it was all it took until it started to become like a natural habit where I didn't have to think about it as much. But I will say within the first week or two of when I could eat harder foods, my jaw would hurt and I would feel sore from chewing, because it would take a half an hour to eat my meals because I was chewing them so thoroughly. We want to avoid eating fatty foods, especially trans fats, poor food combinations. So like a carbohydrate and a protein together are hard to digest. So you might want to do like the protein powder drink and just that with the pea protein. And then you might want to have another meal of just your vegetables and, you know, a chicken. For a carb meal, breakfast, I would suggest, you know, oats are really great. Or a rice, if you can do the rice. You can make rice in the morning, rice porridge. Stress is a really big one, and I can feel this within myself when my 3-year-old is giving me a stressful day, or say my husband and I got into an argument. I can feel that cortisol flowing through my blood, and my stomach will start to feel like it's on fire. So I've done a lot of things to try to find ways to manage that. I recommend tapping, look up different breathing techniques, yoga. Yoga Nidra is a really good breathing technique to calm your nervous system down. Pretty much whatever, works for you. And you're just really dealing with your problems. Something's pissing you off or whatever, just really looking at that and dealing with it, so you can let it go and move past it. Gum chewing, because we're chewing, so that's going to have the brain send signals to the body that you're eating, and it's going to prep your stomach to start producing even more acid, thinking that food is coming. Too much animal protein. Once again, you want to do maybe like half a cup of animal protein. That's easier on the stomach. So for the first 90 days, if you are having a severe flare-up, you're going through hell, and you'll know because you'll wonder if you're like dying or not. For the first 90 days, I recommend sticking to that pH level of 5 or above foods. Limit or avoid the beans, the grains, nightshades, brown rice, corn, and the nuts. Replace your grains with tubers. So there's so many different types of potatoes depending on where you live. I just made mashed potatoes with yucca, which is like a tropical root plant, and I liked them way better. They were way more creamier. So it's a good time to just start experimenting. White rice, I would pick the basmati rice because that is low on the glycemic index, and there's the whole arsenic concern when it comes to rice because it's in the water. In certain areas of the world have more, so make sure you're getting your basmati rice from California or India or Pakistan. Those have the lowest. And then soak them overnight, rinse the water once, and that'll help get rid of some of that other stuff in there too. So back on, for the first 90 days, we want really high antioxidant rich foods. So every day you want a pound of greens, such as steamed, roasted, or lightly sauteed in a pan, like your spinach, your chards, kales, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, celery, okra, artichokes, asparagus. So it seems like a lot, but it's really not. I'll get that in with 2 meals, just simply like safe. For lunch, your digestion is usually stronger, the strongest during lunchtime. So I'll do more of a harder to digest vegetable, I guess one that's not as mashed up. So I'll saute veggies in a pan for like a stir fry, and just a cup and a half to 2 cups of vegetables, and then for dinner I'll do just some steamed spinach, and a lot of it, you can saute it in a pan with a little bit of oil or water, and when it cooks down, it really isn't that much volume as compared to eating it raw. So it feels like it's easier for me to actually get that pound in the 2 meals. You don't want to forget, eat your carrots, your sweet potatoes, squashes, beets. They're all really helpful. And then don't forget, to throw some carrots, mushrooms, beets, squashes, sweet potatoes. You want to get a good mix of vegetables. I rotate my vegetables every couple of days, and that ensures that throughout the week I'm eating different colors and different plants, and that's good to have a variety, so you can feed that bacteria in your microbiome and have like a diverse microbiome. If you're just eating one thing all the time, then you're not going to have as strong as a gut microbiome as you may want to. So berries are really, really good healing food, and if you can tolerate it, I would daily maybe with your pea protein smoothie, which is what I do, is put in half a cup to a cup of blueberries or strawberries and, 2 to 3 to 4 cups of milk and drink that every day. You want to make sure you're getting your essential fatty acids, so we can get that from the fish. I don't eat meat anymore. I noticed when I stopped eating meat, it seemed like I sped up. I may have already said that, but I make sure I get mine by either doing the walnuts, or on the days I don't have walnuts, I'll grind up flaxseed in a coffee grinder, just a tablespoon, and throw it in my smoothies, and that takes care of that. Plus you're getting your healthy oils that you cook with, your olive oils, flaxseed, walnut. If you want to pour them on a dish, just make sure you don't heat them. Avocado is really great. It's very soothing for the gut, and that's probably the best place you can get your fat from. So I love guacamole, and it's a bummer I can't have that, but there's a really good way to make it. You just mash it up with some cilantro, fresh, the sumac, and then a little bit of cumin and a little bit of salt, and I find that makes a nice replacement. And that's kind of what I use to put on my burritos, my veggie burgers, anything that I would want cheese with. I just do that. High quality protein rich foods. So pea and hemp protein, once again, I would definitely recommend doing that, vegan or not. And then, you want to limit your chicken, your eggs, turkey, and it's suggested if you're in a severe flare up, don't even do that for 2 to 4 weeks. Don't even try. Just stick to those protein powders. And then easy to digest foods. So especially in the beginning, you want soft foods like potatoes, carrots. You can pretty much boil anything down, mash it up, soups, smoothies. There's lots of good cream of rice recipes, steamed vegetables. And after the 90 days, you can evaluate how that went. For me, I'm just about at the end of my 90 days, but I started introducing some stuff a little too soon, I think, this month, and I've had flare up after flare up. So now I'm just going to stick to this eating plan that I am telling you guys about for another month or two before I try to reintroduce stuff, because I'd rather feel good than deal with this. Even though the flare-ups that I had, trying stuff were so much more manageable, and they didn't decimate me like the last serious one did. So when you're trying these new foods, just add a little bit in and try it, for a few days, and if you don't have any reaction, then you're probably good. If you do have a reaction, then go back to the old way of eating for a week, and then I would suggest trying something else, not what you just tried, and see if your body tolerates that or not. Oh, and I also want to mention, because I know it's not on my list that I read off, foods to avoid: gluten and dairy. Gluten and dairy are very difficult to digest for people with healthy, strong digestive systems. So anyone who's struggling with any sort of IBS, any gut issue, gastritis, just avoid it. And so now some tips on what to do. Eat every 2 to 3 hours. If you're in a severe flare up, I would do a cup of vegetables, a half a cup of the rice or oats, whatever grain you're trying, and like a small portion of protein. And just do this every 2 to 3 hours until you start to feel better. a good eating schedule, this is what I stick to. I'll have fruit at 7:30. I will have my breakfast of oats around 8:39. At 12, I have lunch. At 3, I'll have my snack and my protein powder. And at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'll have my dinner. You want to make sure you're chewing your food till it's crumbled. If it's protein, animal protein, or any, if you are doing more of a sauteed vegetable, that's a little harder. And then your other foods, you want it to pretty much be liquefied, because the digestion process starts in the mouth. The saliva will help break down your food before it even gets to your stomach. So you want to make sure you're helping your poor stomach out as much as you can. Even with your drinks, like your protein, I swish that. And I'm glad I did, because I found a piece of plastic in it the other day, a plastic tiny little ball. So that kind of freaked me out. And yeah, so just a good idea to get that spit in it. We want to decrease your salt and sugar consumption. Sea or Himalayan pink salt is good, but once again, just be aware of how much you're using. What I do that helps me is I have a jar that I put the salt in, and then I actually use my fingers to pinch it, and then I sprinkle it onto my food. Rather than shaking it, I find I use a lot less. You want to have exercise in your life. Exercise regularly. You may be at a point right now where you're just barely surviving. When I was there, I would make sure I would do like 15 minutes of stretching, yoga stuff in the morning, and I would walk around after my meals, just like kind of walk around the house. And now that I'm starting to get healthier and I feel a hell of a lot better. Now I'm actually starting to exercise. I'm putting some weight back on. And that's something you can start to do as you're feeling better, is to, increase your portion sizes of your grains and healthy fats. And that'll help you put on some weight. And then you can feel more comfortable about, adding in weight training or whatever it is you want to do to keep your body young. Another tip is to think about some supplements to protect your stomach. What works for me might not work for you. So I'm a big fan of L-glutamine. When my flare-ups are so bad and water makes me nauseous, then I'll put that in it, and that seems to help. There's Zinc Carnosine. I tried that, but it made my flare-up worse. Zinc is very hard on the stomach, especially on an empty stomach, but with the Carnosine, it's not supposed to do that, but for whatever reason, my body said it did. DGL chewable tablets you can use. That's said to help coat and protect your stomach. I did this for about 2 months, but honestly, once I stopped, I feel like it was like a big boost in my recovery timeline. There's aloe vera. If you can make your own, I would do that, because I haven't found one that doesn't use lemon juice as a stabilizer to keep it fresh. So if you can make your own, that's very soothing on your gut. And another tip is vitamin C. We should all be taking vitamin C.